Nihilism fundamentally is a form of self-deception. You're lying to yourself about not caring about anything. This feeling that nothing really matters comes from fear, and this fear is hiding a way more fundamental truth about existence. It's the truth that all nihilists are actually seeking. In philosophy, nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles. It's the belief that life is fundamentally meaningless, or that there's no inherent meaning to existence. It can also be defined as the belief that nothing in the world has a real existence. Most of modern society is pretty much nihilistic. You likely too have nihilistic tendencies if you grew up in the West, even if you don't think about yourself in these philosophical terms. You don't need to call yourself a nihilist to behave like one. Because every time you feel like that nothing you do really matters, if you feel like that it doesn't matter if you make a ton of money and build your own business, if it doesn't really matter if you become like buff and healthy, or that your success isn't really that important because it's all just superficial and meaningless, or even if you believe that finding a loving partner isn't significant to you. Well, there's this tiny little voice in you that says that it doesn't matter, and you do this because of comparisons. You compare yourself to the universe as a whole, and you can say, look at how big the universe is, and look how small I am. I might as well be insignificant. Or you compare yourself to society and society's rat race, and then you say, I don't want to take part in this. There's so much out there already, I don't need to do my own stuff. Because at the end, everything dies and ends up as nothing anyway. There is the seed of meaninglessness that shimmers inside of you. The problem is that nihilism is 99% true. You don't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Your life is pretty much insignificant in the grander cosmos, and in fact, everything dies and ends up as nothing. These ideas might be true, but first of all, they're not really useful, and they are holding you back from living a fulfilling life. Because what you're doing is you're underestimating your impact, and you're underestimating your potential. So today we're going to talk about how to live a meaningful life in the face of nihilism, and if there is in fact such a thing as meaning. Lots of philosophers figured out the emptiness of the universe, and then they come to the conclusion that nihilism is the ultimate truth, because there's nothing really you can hold on to. And often this is a reaction from the cruelty of life. You see all of its injustice, and then you see that you came into existence without any choice of your own, and this is true for everybody. And then cruel things happen to you, and you think that there has to be some meaning to it all, because if not, then it's all some sort of accident. But the further you go into life, you see, yeah, it is in fact unjust, and it is in fact cruel, and it doesn't seem like there is some grand narrative that gives us some clear definable meaning. So you see how deeply the world is hurting, and there's no one to save it. So what is the way to cope with that? Well, the best way to cope with that, at least what it appears, is to say, you dismiss all of reality. It might as well mean nothing at all, as if it isn't real and it doesn't exist. There's just so much suffering out there, it's way easier to deal with it by rejecting it or ignoring it or pretend that it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's pretending, because it doesn't really make sense to engage with so much suffering in a way that has no way to solve it or kind of resolve it. But you can also notice here that nihilism doesn't really make much sense, does it? Because you can say it's all meaningless as much as you want, but reality is still there. Experiences happen, and there are a lot of awful ones and also a lot of good ones, but you wouldn't push a button to destroy the entire universe, would you? And even if you would, then it kind of proves the point that it means something, or you wouldn't want to destroy it. So then saying it's all meaningless might be freeing, but it is pretty much delusional. Nihilism is a response to a feeling you have, and it's a feeling of hopelessness. But in saying that hope or hopelessness doesn't matter is more clearly a cope, isn't it? So if nihilism is a response to a feeling inside of you, well, then this feeling means something to you. In fact, it might actually be the most meaningful feeling that you have. The most meaningful feeling of it all is just the sense that you don't matter. So what this reveals is that nihilism is an attachment to meaning. And this is why it makes you so miserable. Meaning doesn't exist in the way that the nihilistic part of you wants it to exist. The ego makes meaning into a personal narrative. It makes it all about yourself. You compare to the cosmos or society because you want to feel important. You want to feel significant. And when you don't, you just dismiss the entire reality as a whole. It's like what you really want is you want an other to give you meaning in life. Something else to tell you why you're here. But then when you look at the night sky, you only see empty space and nobody's there to comfort you. But it's not just about an other giving you some meaning. Because if you have a job and you have a boss that gives you paperwork to do, well, you might feel like this paperwork is quite meaningless. The only reason you're doing this is because you want to survive. So the paperwork doesn't feel meaningful. It feels pretty much meaningless. And if your parents tell you what your life should look like, and you then just follow in the footsteps of your parents, it's likely that you also will not feel a sense of purpose. You just feel pushed into a life you don't want to live. So the nihilistic thing inside of you, it doesn't want you to just be given a purpose by some random thing. It's like you want to be given a God-given purpose while not actually believing that God is real. That's why so many people, and this is how it was for me as well, nihilism comes to them as a response of godlessness. And when you dissolve this perception of like a God that ties it all together, well, what you end up seeing is you see nothing at all. It also is true that nothing stays. So even in the case that you really care about your dream job or dream career and your beautiful family, and you could actually get to this reliably, well, you can also preemptively know that you're going to lose it all. You're going to die, everybody you love is going to die, and everything you ever care about will wither away. This sense of loss reinforces the idea of pointlessness, because it all breaks down sooner or later. It's actually also likely that if you weren't religious, that this sense of nihilism came as a result of some deep loss that you're still grieving or haven't really processed in like some larger logical sense. So then this feeling of meaningless is a response to this emotional feeling of loss. But here's the twist. I said earlier that nihilism is just 99% true, which sounds pretty weird, right? Either something is true or it isn't. So what's with the last 1%? Well, the last 1% is why nihilism is utterly and completely wrong. It's not true. First of all, let's give a ground to what meaning, like the word meaning, what is it even supposed to mean? If I were to define meaning, well, I could say meaning is whatever has significance, or meaning is what matters. But these are very circular and unsatisfying definitions, which is kind of a hint. But I also found this definition, which I think is very great. Meaning is what something intends to communicate that is not directly expressed. So when I say something like, it's getting late, you can understand that the meaning of the sentence is that it's time to leave. And a more abstract example, when I say the problem is that nihilism is 99% true, the meaning of the sentence is that nihilism is not completely true. So meaning is what hides behind what is being communicated. This can also extrapolate to, some objects or symbols, right? So if you have like a street sign, then you know what it means because of what it intends to communicate. Okay, so with this definition, it makes sense why you would feel a certain meaninglessness looking at the night sky or in relationship to the universe. because it feels like the universe has no intended message for you. You just exist, but it's not like it's trying to communicate anything. There's no hidden meaning or message behind your existence. You simply are here, experience things, and then you die. So what's the point? But now we can at least acknowledge that meaning does in fact exist in some form. At least from human to human, there is constructed meaning. If I start screaming fire in a building where there's actually no fire happening, the police will want to question me. And if I then say to them, well, I was just having fun in the meaningless existence of the universe, it didn't mean anything that I screamed fire in this building, the police is going to disagree with me. So meaning does exist. My words carry something, or if not, I wouldn't be communicating anything to you right now. Okay, fine, but this isn't the same as inherent meaning, right? It's not the universe expressing something. It's just, in between people. But when we say that there's no inherent meaning in the universe, well, what are we actually trying to communicate here? Well, the God example fits again because God had like intended meaning, right? It had a unified idea with which united all of humanity behind some common existence. An existence that, created living beings in the world with a purpose in mind, all under the mercy of God. But without God, what is inherent supposed to mean? What is inherent in anything? Like, how can something have inherent meaning? So let's deconstruct the idea of inherence. Inherence is the idea that something exists as a permanent, essential attribute. Something that is just like this, factually, and there's nothing you can like mold or change about it because it's inherent. So, for example, I have this cup here. This is a cup. But is it inherently a cup, or are we projecting the cupness onto the thing? And then it also has this like cute little Playboy logo. Is this inherently a Playboy logo, or are you noticing it or recognizing it immediately and then you project this meaning onto it? Because the cup doesn't really exist as like a cup, really, right? It's just a bunch of atoms and ceramic. And the logo is just something we invented as humans, and now you have an association with it, a lot of associations with it. And then from person to person, there might be, different associations. So it's a bunch of conditions meshed together that we now call a cup. But it's conditioned. It's not inherent. It is just, a mesh of things. And if I drop this cup and I break it, well, the cup will shatter in a ton of pieces. The logo won't be visible anymore, and it will be clearly revealed that there was no cup there at all, just a ton of parts meshed together. If there's no real inherent thing, like if there are no real inherent objects in the universe, and everything withers and dies, everything moves towards entropy, well then what is it that you're actually looking for when you're looking for inherent meaning? Are you looking for a permanent state that never ends? And this is your standard for meaning? Well, then of course you're going to be miserable. It is just a complete dismissal of how this reality works. It is quite delusional. We just know that this is not how it works. That's also likely why the idea of a God carries so much significance for people. Because God is supposed to be this inherently infinite entity. It's like this all-powerful and omniscient force that's within nature that won't ever change. And so without it ever changing, and you having this direct access to God, well, then you don't need to go and search for any inherent meaning because you already have access to the thing that never changes. Well, there actually does exist something within nature that never changes. That's why nihilism ends up being wrong. That what never changes in its nature is consciousness. Defining consciousness could be a giant video in of itself, but it doesn't need to be. First of all, you know what it's like to be conscious. You know what it means, because you are. It is actually all you know. But the best way to define it is the state of presence. It's this feeling of being present. Whatever is looking behind your eyes right now always is present. And that's why you know that you're conscious. It's in the now where you have always existed. You've never tasted the past and you've never witnessed the future. You've only known this sense of presence. This now is where everything arises. And it is actually eternal. It can't stop. Well, now you will likely appeal towards your own death and say, no, you don't actually know that, right? You cannot tell me that this sense of presence is eternal because I die and then everything disappears. And then you can use death as evidence that even this presence doesn't last. But you don't actually know that, right? You've never witnessed death in this way. For all you know, your life is everything you've ever known. And whatever comes afterwards might be more of this sense of presence existing. So when I say consciousness, what I actually mean isn't your personal perception. What I mean is reality. This presence isn't bound by your body. And you know that reality doesn't really disappear when you die. If you personalize it, it's again the ego talking, saying, no, but I will disappear when I die, so then everything disappears when I die, making the importance again about yourself. But that's not really how we live. That's why we have children and care for those who come after us. We care about reality as a whole beyond us. There's also a reason why this is seen as virtuous, and only caring about yourself and thinking that you are the entire universe is pretty narcissistic. This means that if you don't believe in reincarnation or an afterlife the way I'm suggesting, because you won't have it, well, you certainly know that this presence that I'm talking about will not disappear with your physical death. The forces that created the universe won't disappear just because your biological body disappears. At least other people will keep living on. So whatever made the sense of presence exist in the first place, this force simply exists. It's like a law. Or you wouldn't be here. Or this entire universe wouldn't exist. From this framing, everything changes a lot. First of all, it puts into question if this God that we were looking for is really outside of us. If this God-giving meaning is something that could really exist outside of us. And it puts into question if this meaning that we're looking for isn't already right in front of your eyes. If this is true, then the intended message, the meaning of what existence is trying to communicate to you, is what you're experiencing right now. Or in fact, every moment of your life. The meaning is what you already are. All the sensations of your experience, all the perspectives of your life are what meaning is. And you know this. This is why your life feels meaningful to you. And this flips nihilism completely on its head. It's not that nothing has inherent meaning, it's that everything has inherent meaning. From this position, what is really the difference between nothing having meaning and everything having meaning? Meaning then is an emergent phenomena that comes from the ground up. It's not that it can be given to you from some other realm above you, but it is co-created immediately, right now, directly in front of your face. The meaning of this cup is, well, that it's a cup with a Playboy logo on it. It's pretty much obvious. There's nothing to deconstruct here. This is why if you ask me for a cup of coffee, and then I try to convince you that, well, the cup isn't really there because it's a mesh of atoms of ceramic, and I don't really know what you mean with Playboy logo, all I see is a bunny, you're just going to tell me to shut the hell up and give me the cup with the coffee in it, because this is what is meaningful to you in the moment. All the philosophy breaks down because it actually means something. The illusion is reality. the world beyond us is the world we are in. That's why nihilism is both false and true. Nihilism is true because there is no inherent permanent existence in anything. But nihilism is false because there are qualities like the copness of a thing that is as real as it gets. And no amount of philosophy will destroy the practical utility of what a cop is. From a moral perspective, it is also the sense of presence that is the uniting force of it all. Our moral intuitions make sense this way. It's not about some God-given morality, but it's about not hurting yourself. So if you see this presence or this consciousness as the unifying force, this is the same idea that all these religions have always trying to point to. It's like consciousness itself is a meaning-making machine. Existence itself, in its perception, creates meaning out of nothing at all. But it genuinely creates it. And I'm not talking about something other than you. You are this powerful. And then when you wake up to the significance of what I'm saying to you right now, well, then reality becomes truly amazing, shockingly so. Like, think about how many things exist and how many forms and perceptions you have witnessed in your lifetime only. And then look how much there's to discover and to explore in this world. Here's also where the joy of life comes from. And all children have an understanding of this almost inherently. It's a curiosity for existence, a curiosity of what it's like to experience life like. And in there, you might also argue that the purpose or the meaning of life is to play and to explore and to be curious about what crazy things consciousness can muster up. And you know this too, right? I'm not saying some weird stuff. That's why you enjoy movies and you enjoy video games and you enjoy finding a partner and you enjoy playing golf or whatever it is, right? There's so many things to be enjoyed. It's almost as if we came from another realm to experience what it's like to be human in all its infinite ways. And within this, what you'll find is that you're truly free to live how you want to live. You have the freedom to enjoy your existence however you please. So listen to your desires and to your intuition to what you want your life to be like. And stop blocking yourself by this false sense of importance. It doesn't really matter that much. And that's why you can do whatever you want. So to be a real nihilist, nihilism needs to actually be nihilistic about itself. You need to deconstruct the meaning of nihilism to actually go towards the meaning of life. Meaning does and does not exist. It's either and or. The distinction doesn't matter. You can do this because nihilism is true. You can truly construct meaning out of thin air. And the beauty in this is that you are free to live your life how you want to live it. You have a giant playground, and whatever limits you put on yourself, you just simply put on yourself. There are so many amazing things that you can do whenever you stop this ego blockade that is telling you that one things are allowed and other things are not allowed. You can do whatever you want because it doesn't matter. So listen to your inner voice. Listen to your desires. Listen to what you really want and go for it. I have a Discord community where we dive deep into topics of self-understanding and how to live a profound life. The link is in the description. My entire life focus is in stopping existential suffering and helping people gain deeper self-understanding for a meaningful life. So it would mean a lot to me if you share this video with anybody you think needs to hear this, as I think this message will only become more important over time. And if you want to gain an even deeper understanding of yourself, you should watch this video next.